Father, unless I judge, I cannot weep, nor can I suffer pain, or feel I am abandoned or unneeded in the world. This is my home because I judge it not, and therefore it is only what you will. Let me today behold it uncondemned. Through happy eyes, forgiveness has released from all distortion. Let me see your world instead of mine, and all the tears I shed will be forgotten, for their source is gone. Father, I will not judge your world today. God himself shall wipe away all tears. God himself shall wipe away all tears. God himself shall wipe away all tears. God's world is happy. Those who look on it can only add their joy to it and bless it as a cause of further joy in them. We wept because we did not understand, but we have learned the world we saw was false, and we will look upon God's world today. And God himself shall wipe away all tears. 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 All right, this is a very beautiful lesson, lesson 301. This is actually comes from the Gospels. Somewhere in the Gospels, I forget where. We'd have to. I'll put it in the description, but it's somewhere in the Gospels that God himself will wipe away all tears. I'm not sure if that's the exact quote, but Jesus keeps putting his spin on it in the course. He keeps correcting the Bible. Actually, he keeps reinterpreting it in light of the Holy Spirit. Because the Bible, as Jesus says in the Course, comes from humans that did not necessarily, they were not at the level of Christ consciousness. And so what they were writing was colored by ego, and they did not always get it right. So Jesus has to, is what he's doing in the Course is correcting the errors in the light of the Holy Spirit and saying this is what it really means. This is the deeper message. This is the message that will take you home if you let it, right? The Bible is not always going to do that for you. It might sometimes do the opposite, actually. Remember also that Helen had an ambivalence about the Bible and Jesus, probably because of the Bible, right? She had an ambivalence. She had kind of this love-hate, tug-of-war type of relationship because she was like, there's so much. This is how I understand. She said she loved some of it, right? Because if you read the Gospels, for example, it's stirring. It is like, wow, this is really cool, right? But there's a lot of stuff there that leaves you scratching your head, and she probably felt that way too. Is like, there's a lot of good stuff here, but there's also a lot of stuff that you just have to kind of wonder what was happening there, Can we remain consistently in the light here, or do we have to have these weird passages, and even books of the Bible that are a little bit weird, Let's read it. And God himself shall wipe away all tears. Paragraph 1. Father, unless I judge, I cannot weep, nor can I suffer pain, or feel I am abandoned or unneeded in the world. This is my home because I judge it not, and therefore it is only what you will. Let me today behold it uncondemned. Through happy eyes, forgiveness has released from all distortion. Let me see your world instead of mine, and all the tears I shed will be forgotten, for their source is gone. Father, I will not judge your world today. Paragraph 2, and that was a prayer to God the Father. It's all in italics. Paragraph 2, God's world is happy. Those who look on it can only add their joy to it and bless it as a cause of further joy in them. We wept because we did not understand, but we have learned the world we saw was false, and we will look upon God's world today. Okay, we're going to read it a little slower now. Get into the nuances, the nitty-gritty. I don't know if you noticed, but Jesus moved there from happy to joy, right? He mentioned the word happy a couple times in the beginning, and then he moved to joy, which, I usually say that happiness and joy are more or less the same thing in the Course, but in a way, joy has more of a, when we think of happiness and joy, I think we tend to think of joy as even more than happiness, right? Joy is like a state of feeling you're in blessedness, right? You are really radiant in this radiating wholeness and well-being and holiness even. So let's look at it. Father, unless I judge, I cannot weep. So this is the answer to tears, right? Why do we cry? Why do we still cry? Why do you cry? Why are you still crying, right? Well, because... and let's also distinguish between egoic crying and tears of joy, right? We talk about that. Everyone knows that, when we know the difference between tears of joy and tears of where you're crying because you didn't get your way, right? Egoic. And why is that? Because we're judging. Tears of joy are okay, right? Those are good tears. Not to put a value judgment, but it might be even that all tears ultimately are going to be. It's not might be. It's because you go beyond the body, right? But the tears are of the body. You will go beyond the body completely, and there will be no more tears. But and I think that's the deeper message here of God Himself will wipe away all tears, because Jesus talks about God taking the last step, right? God will ultimately bring you back to God. I don't want to say Him, but we could say Him. God will take that last step, and all tears will be no more, because we will have gone beyond the body completely, right? But in this world, why do we weep? Why do we cry? Because we're judging, right? And we might not think that's the case, but that's why we cry, right? Because and tears are a sign of our suffering, that we are in suffering. Father, unless I judge, I cannot weep, nor can I suffer pain, or feel I am abandoned or unneeded in the world. This is my home, because I judge it not, and therefore it is only what you will. Let me today behold it uncondemned. Through happy eyes, forgiveness has released from all distortion. Let me see your world instead of mine. So this is the real world. Like, let me see the real world, right? The real world is the world where there is not the distorted vision that comes from selfish self-interest, self-seeking, and basically being in pain and suffering, and seeing, and because we're in the pain and the suffering due to our lack of higher vision, we see the world through a distorted lens, right? And there's that great saying, we do not see the world as we are, we do not see the world as it is, we see the world as we are, right? And it's generally, we have a distorted lens because we are not seeing clearly due to our egoic biases. Let me see your world instead of mine. In all the tears I shed will be forgotten, for their source is gone. Father, I will not judge your world today. So clearly, Jesus is putting very big emphasis, as always, on judgment, releasing judgment. No more judgment. And forgiveness. Really, forgiveness and releasing judgment are the same thing. Right? There's no difference. You stop judging yourself and others. It's easier said than done, but that's where we're going, right? And as we do that, you're peeling the onion, right? Peeling the onion. There's a lot of tears with this process, but when you get to the pearl, when you shed all the layers of the onion, you get to the pearl of wisdom. There's no more tears, right? Because you are wise. There are no more tears in your eyes, because you realize the truth. God's world is happy. Those who look on it can only add their joy to it and bless it as a cause of further joy in them. We wept because we did not understand. This is an interesting sentence because it's now talking like in the past. We wept because we did not understand. But we have learned the world we saw was false, and we will look upon God's world today. So we if you're at this point in the course too, now we're in the 300, lesson 301. We're getting toward the end of the course, end of the workbook, right? We used to weep, we used to cry, and now we're realizing that we only cried because we had these false, mistaken ideas, right? False self-concepts. A case of mistaken identity. We keep identifying with what we are not versus what we truly are. And if we identified only with what we truly are, then we would not cry, because what we truly are is that joy, right? And joy has no reason to cry. Joy has only reason to sing. There's a great quote from the Talmud, which is I think it's from the Talmud, which is that the joy of the heart begets song. Right? So when you're in the joy, you just want to sing. You just want to praise and be grateful, be in the state of gratitude. When you're in your suffering, you want to cry and bitch and complain and vent your frustration and blame, do the shame blame game and make other people feel guilty, and basically just because you're having a shitty day, everyone else has to have a shitty day. But anyway, hope this was helpful. Let me know. God himself will wipe away all tears. It's one of my favorite lessons, just for the beauty of that sentiment. Like I will be still a moment and go home is a great one. They're all great, but anyway, no more fears, no more tears. Blessings. See you soon.